Welcome to the You Are Love podcast, hosted by Arna.
Hello, thank you for joining me today. I am a clinical hypnotherapist and spiritual counselor, and I've worked in the field of mind-body medicine and healing for over 20 years. I have created the Ask Arna podcast as a way to share with you valuable knowledge and wisdom that I have learned along the way on my journey to self-love and healing. It is my hope that the information that I share with you today will be beneficial for your journey to self-love and healing. I am checking back with Gale, and Gale had a lot of stress last week because her daughter got a diagnosis of melanoma, and she has 2 small children, and we had this great opportunity last week to talk about how to cope through this, and Gale's with me. Gale, how are you doing this week?
I am doing okay, Arna, and I feel like maybe I'm moving in a good direction, for sure.
Okay, what have you walked through this week in terms of yourself? And I think what's really interesting, it's really not about the outer world here, Gale. It's about your inner world. I'd love you to share what your inner process has been.
Probably shift in thought. Probably as you walk through things, daily, hourly, things come up. It's been basically observing my thought, catching it in the moment and shifting it. One thing that you had mentioned last week was seeing things, or seeing like my daughter in a healthy light, and really a lot going on in the head, pretty much.
Wow, that's very profound. What you just said is watching the thought, observing the thought, and catching the thought. I love the way you said that. Could you tell me more?
Well, just as soon as you talk to, especially about my daughter, saying, to visualize her in a healthy light. At that moment, as a mother, we have a unique perspective to be able to see our children because we birth them, God willing, or you adopt them, or however they come into your life, and you're the mother. You watch them grow. You see them in very different stages of their being. And so just to, just because someone, your daughter gets a diagnosis, for example, not to just latch on to that one thing, to see the whole spectrum and to grab on that there's more health there, and to grab onto that and hold that and work with that. Not just, okay, so there's an event that happened, and yes, it's upsetting and you have all these emotions with it and everything, but to basically use, like what you said, I think I could probably benefit more with more meditation and ways to even focus more on I don't know how you would say that, on managing your thoughts.
Wow, you're absolutely right. And I really do believe our thoughts do contribute to our outer world outcome. And it's extremely direct. It's quantum physics here.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
I can see it as science, yes. And that not only to work on it, like here I was in, let's just say, crisis. For me, it was a panic moment for me. Other people have their panic moments, different ways. For me, that was one of them. That was just like a wake up. But it doesn't stop there. Even when you're not in the panic, you have to I believe the training, you just have to constantly be doing this and training yourself so that, God forbid, it's and it's not when another. It is when another, really. It's not, oh, we won't have these anymore. Are you kidding? We're living. This is life. We are living, and thank God we're alive versus the alternative. So when you're alive, you're going to have these tensions and these moments, and it's to train how to walk through them. And you really very helpful in that regard. So you need someone to train you how to walk through.
Yeah, that's
living.
Yeah, and to walk through what I'll call the dark night of the soul, those moments that grip us on such an emotional level, like a mother and child. I mean, what you're
100%.
You're dealing
but
with
we have
something.
I think we have to thank God for the moments, because Arna, what's the alternative? That we're not alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's opportunity being alive. See, that's
exactly.
The thing. There's opportunity to change
have
our
these
thoughts.
Experiences. And I would like to further, am I going to say that I'm not going to fall or break down or whatever, but I'm going to train. I'm committed to train myself, and with your help and anyone's help that is on the same path or moving in this direction. I'm going to commit myself to say I'm going to keep training, because this is where we train, I guess.
Well, by the way, I think that, what's coming up for me, Gale, and tell me if you can relate to this, is even if this event was not in your life, would you say you needed to do work in this area anyway? Like this?
Yes.
So in a way, an area that's so emotional as your daughter,
right?
And your grandchildren,
right?
This is like an incredible opportunity for you to train your thinking from crisis and panic to other thinking, observational, like you're talking about. And how do you think what you're learning here is going to change your entire life?
It's going to shift how I move. It's how I move through it. It's for me, my thoughts on thinking, and you can tell me if in your experience, in what you do, if I'm on the right path, is it's not like I got stuck in the event. You hear that thing, and then all of a sudden your brain, all these vibrations start going off, trigger. I got stuck in the event and forgot the simple thing, breathe or move through it.
Very powerful.
To be able to move through it and not get stuck in the event, because you're going to have many events that we're going to look. I'm not, I'm a grandmother, so I've had many years, thank God, and I've had many years, and starting to maybe get a glimpse of it now as I'm moving, maturing in my years. So, just to have this and hopefully be able to share this, and hopefully my children will experience me differently.
Yeah, and also I just want to remind you is how your body is feeling since you're shifting your thoughts, right? Because I can only imagine if you're stuck in the event, I would think your body would be very tense.
Yes.
You'd be in a lot of pain in your body.
You feel
Now, do you
absolutely?
Do you physically feel? Does your body feel more relaxed as your thoughts have gotten out of the event?
I'm pretty your body ages, those kind of things, and the cold weather. Different things contribute to all of that, right? Yeah, I'm paying attention to more. Just talking to you, I said it moving, because I think what happens in our body, and you can correct me, is it's like there's tension there, and you feel the tension, but it's what you do with that tension is what I think is probably important. Yes, there's tension, recognize it, sit with it. You have to sit with it. And then be able to move it. And those would be very helpful in finding skills to do that. I think you do hypnosis, different, I guess you can recommend different techniques and things you can use to move through the tension.
Well, what's so interesting, like what you came up with, Gale, is so important, is number one, observing it. Just the observation.
Okay.
To be able to observe it. Often this is an image that I give people. Mm-hmm. When a thought comes up that is a thought they want to let go, watch it float on by like a cloud in the sky. The cloud, you put the thought in the cloud, and you just watch it floating away. Something as simple as that. That's one image. Another image is you put the thought in a balloon and you let it go. So here's some visualizations, but I often like watching the thought float by, because I think what that does is it really lets you understand what it's a part of being alive and having a mind and thoughts. Like, I really liked when you said that. It was very, very insightful. Here's the second thing, too, that you said, because I am really telling you you're doing a fantastic job.
Well, thank you.
And you're bringing up some true wisdom here. Okay, I want you to know that you have this inner wisdom. It's inside of you, Gale. It's inside of you. So one is observation and the other is don't dwell in it.
There you go.
Because dwelling in it, I often say, okay, it's how long we get that hit of the moment, like you talk about, that just pulls us in. But after the event, and I loved how you also called it an event. See, this is it's so good what you have to offer us. After the event is how long are you going to dwell in the event? It's done.
Really?
It's over.
Really? It is.
It's happened. It's done and it's over. Okay, so observation. Do not dwell. You can acknowledge the event.
Words.
You can, you can say, okay, there's an event. Now, let's go to the next part of this is a positive intention on moving forward. Now, I'd like you to share how you were able, like I'll call it a coping mechanism this week.
There was another shift. Yeah,
okay, tell me about that.
There was just another shift. I listened to your words when we talk. There was another shift, like the coping, and then how can I be there for my daughter, let's say, because she had some teary, there was another event. I mean, this is not done by any means. She has a surgery ahead of her, and she did have a few more moles removed that are being tested too. So in that waiting period, you sit there and you wait. There was one, that biopsied abnormal cells. Then she went in and had two more. So it was a perfect opportunity to work with this and work with her, because she had some very intense emotional times this week. And who better can you call as your mother?
Absolutely.
And so I have to honestly say, the first call with the crying, I'm judging in a way that I didn't handle it very well, because I she just started crying, and I couldn't understand her words. And then she just said, well, then I just need to go. And she hung up. And
okay, I want to talk to you about that. Yes,
yeah.
I want to talk to you about that. So when you said I didn't handle it very well, was it that...
In the moment,
yes,
I feel like I could have been more, like you mentioned the word advocacy. In that moment, I could have been more of an advocate and a support, and just, and had a little bit more compassion that it's her, it's happening to her, and she's obviously going to have a lot of emotion attached to this.
Right. How do you feel that you were with her when she was calling crying?
How do I feel like I was with her up until the moment that she broke down, and then I until the moment that she broke down, and I think it got to me, it just got to me, and
how did you respond?
I didn't want to break down. I just said, I can't hear you. The words that were coming out was just, I can't understand what you're, she's crying, please talk, In other words, maybe she perceived me, and I don't know if I was trying to say that, wanting her to she was doing so well, holding it together, I couldn't connect that. Let's just say that. And I think she may have said, I don't know what was coming from her, but good news, later on in the evening, I called her back, and she was together, and we had a good discussion about that, and I talked to her about how I see her in light of health and all of these things, and and I told her, you have a right to break down and cry, and if you want to call, and I fixed it. I said, if you want to call me, and I'll be on the other end and just be crying, I'm here.
Okay, great. I want to talk to you about this idea that you did something wrong and you have to fix it, and I'm listening to those words, okay?
Yeah, I hear you.
Remember, another thing is this concept of just holding space. And holding space for someone can mean silence and say, I hear you. That's it.
Okay.
I'm here,
Okay.
And not have to fix anything, not have to cure anything, because you brought up this idea about the advocate piece. I think it's really important first, when a quote event happens, is to hold the space and allow the person just to hold what I call the loving space.
Okay.
And now here's the second piece of it, is about you holding that loving space for yourself, Gale.
Oh, big, yeah.
Because it sounds like you went to a place of self-judgment.
Okay.
And it's holding the loving space for your daughter, holding the loving space for yourself, letting those emotions
I hear
come out, and then you can move to advocacy and a plan on how you're going to walk through it. Now, the plan is a physical plan, like going to the doctor and follow up and all that. But but I'm really hearing, moving forward, it has to do with the plan on how you're going to handle your emotions, your thoughts as you're walking through this. It's a plan for yourself here.
Okay. I hear that. Yeah.
And that's what, and when we talk about advocate, it's not only being her advocate, but it's being your advocate.
I'm hearing exactly what you say, and that is a piece that I could definitely work on for sure.
And that's this week. That's what I'm going to talk to you about for your homework for this week.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And I want to know, when I talk to you again next week, is how are you doing as an advocate for yourself as you're walking through the event, not being stuck in the event, because you know what? It is an unfolding event. That's the beauty of this event. It's not like, okay, here's what happened. We're done. Let's move on. This is
it's going to keep unfolding.
Yes,
it's going to keep moving.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's opportunity here, and that's.
Is there anything you can offer as far as I'm hearing what you say? Is there when you at the time it was very helpful when you told me to hold my daughter in a loving, healthy light, seeing help, those kind of things. Is there anything I can, like a mantra, something that can click me into saying self first?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I'm going to ask you to hold yourself with self-compassion. And I would also do any self-forgiveness of any judgments that you have in your interactions with her. And I would do self-appreciation, saying something like, I appreciate myself, that I'm here totally for my daughter in every way that I can. And I appreciate myself because I'm here for myself. Now, that doesn't mean if you want to cry and break down, and you said something else about crying when you mentioned, but then she was better. This is such a beautiful human emotion.
Yeah.
And it's not a sign of weakness or not being together.
Right.
It's a natural release. And to be able to be okay with that and to comfort yourself. And it just says to me, just when I heard you say that maybe you may have some judgment about somebody who is crying as falling apart or
it's not so much that I have the judgment. It just I don't know what it was in the moment. I just couldn't handle it.
Okay.
I just couldn't handle it, and I realized that I couldn't handle it.
Right. So.
And then it shifted. Then, when I called her back, and she was there with me. Then we were able to have a discussion. But for some reason, I don't know. I don't know why. Okay. I don't know why.
Well, I think there's an opportunity.
So much judgment. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an opportunity here for you. To work with yourself, number one, and find out, it obviously, it hit you at such a level. Either maybe you felt that, you didn't know what to do, number one, when you heard her in that state. Number two, it just, maybe you were caught off guard. I mean, there's a lot.
Maybe, there's a lot.
There's a lot, and what I'm saying, it's okay that you can say nothing.
At that moment, you know what I may, as we're talking about this now, she has cried to me before. I guess she feels like as soon as she sees me, I'm her mother, she can let it out or whatever. And I've always been that person. You know how some people are that person?
Yes.
Well, I'm that person. So when it happened this time, it shifted. In other words, the other times I'd hear her cry. I don't know. I guess there was some judgment coming through there. Now that we are talking about it, and I'm just really seeing it. Maybe there was some judgment coming through there. So something that I can work on as far as, like you kept saying, bring it back to yourself as we're talking about it.
What do you think the judgment was?
Well, I think once I started hearing that pattern, it was that pattern, and she's, I didn't see there's a difference in this time, this these tears, like the way she was crying. And I guess I had a revelation to say, wow, you have these tears that, like you say tears are a wonderful emotion and this and that. And this time they were extremely, real and she needed to have them. And I was, I just couldn't handle it for whatever reason. So.
Okay. Well, this is something, like I said, anytime we are always growing, learning, and healing, and people are brought into our lives to bring up our stuff like this. And I think there's more around this. And one of the things that you can do is do a little bit of inner work this week and really look at that emotion for yourself, turning it inward to yourself, because like I said, all of this is an opportunity. Every breath we have is an opportunity.
Yeah, thank God.
Every interaction is an opportunity if we do not go to a place of judgment and self-judgment, because then that cuts it off. You see, that'll just say, that'll cut it off if you turn it into an opportunity. I just think there's more here. I think there's more opportunity, more growth, Gale. And I'm really looking forward to hearing, like, after how you work through this next week. There's going to be some important moments. You should get some results, right, on the other moles this week.
Yes. And watching myself, giving myself compassion. That's a good thing to work on.
It is. I really do think it's not about a lack for your daughter. I think the issue has to do with how you treat yourself, and that there needs to be more self-compassion, more gratitude towards self, more self-appreciation. That's really what I get, based on just listening to this. So, anyway,
thank you.
Sure. So what would you say you got from our sharing today?
Firstly, I appreciate the opportunity to reflect on what we did last week, and that there's more work to do, and there's more, good work to do as far as myself, inner work, and working on self, and getting more clear. I've gotten more clear on how and what to look for.
Wonderful. That sounds great. Gale, I hope you have a wonderful week. And
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing more of your inner wisdom, because I do want to remind you, and also remind all our listeners out there, that we all have the tools and the inner wisdom inside, but we need the space, the inner space, to be able to hear it. And that's it. And you know what? You have such wisdom. I want you to know, Gale, when we first started talking today, I'm like, amazing what you got already. From the shift between last week and this week. It's like you are accessing.
You're a gift. You're
accessing your inner space.
That is beautiful, Arna. That is real, because the visualization real quick that I got was we can expand ourselves.
Yes.
We can expand ourselves to allow that inner space, and it is imperative that we fill it with love, self-love, like you say, and goodness for ourselves and others. Very good.
That's beautiful. It sounds, Gale, it sounds it sounds like once again you You gave a beautiful image. I'm going to tell you again, you have a huge inner resource in your inner space. I would encourage you as you get messages, you may even want to write them down.
Good idea.
Because sometimes they're fleeting, journaling. But I think that could be a wonderful tool. I love what you said. Another great wisdom tool is to journey through this whole process. Keep a record of it and watch your inner world and the outer world. Watch it and see really how they all come together as one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the You Are Love podcast. Please be sure to subscribe. You can also follow Arna on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. To contact Arna, please visit askarna.com.